Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the podcast where a real statistics professor
And his friend.
there you go, gives you sports
What's that,
betting
my
tips.
friend?
I am Professor Sides. You can follow me and find all of my picks on Twitter at Professor Sides. Today is Wednesday, January 5th, 2022, and this episode covers today's best college basketball spread bets. With me today is my co-host Jake. How you doing today?
Well, I would say doing all right, but we kind of took it in the teeth last night. Wasn't a great one.
Yeah, last night overall did not go as well. The podcast picks did okay. We lost Cal State Fullerton. That game disappeared off our slate, unfortunately. I think we broke down the Kansas State Texas game pretty much perfectly.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about a tough road environment. Kansas State played really well in the first half. We talked about Texas having more talent. They played well in the second half. We talked about COVID keeping guys out, and sure enough, Texas' best player was out. Now that affected them less because they have just depth out their ears, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about Kansas State, the same guy who missed the OU game over the weekend. Their second leading scorer was out, and so we talked about that could be important to wait till later in the game. I feel like we later in the day. I mean, I feel like we kind of nailed that handicap pretty well.
Yeah, we were all over it.
All over that one. My other eight picks in the podcast went 2-1. So if you listen here to the podcast, treading water, obviously hoping to pick that up today. In case you are new here, I have built a mathematical model that predicts what the spread and total should be for every Division I college basketball game. That information, along with a graded A, B, or C pick for each of today's games, is available in the Google sheet that is linked in the show's description. Picks that get an A are the ones I love, picks that get a B are the ones I like, and picks that get a C are the leans. However, please remember that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I'd like to say the model will be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Please subscribe if you aren't already. And for those of you on YouTube, leave a comment about the play you like the most or the one you think we might be wrong on. Let's get to it. Today, we're going to cover 4 games in depth, and then we're going to throw some buzzer beaters at you at the end. We're going to start off, Jake, with your favorite school, Tennessee. They are hosting Ole Miss tonight. Tennessee is a 15.5-point favorite. That's a B pick for me. I like Tennessee. The model thinks they should be about a 17.5-point favorite. For me, the key is that Tennessee had some COVID issues, appear to be on the upswing for that. Ole Miss is not quite there yet. This is their first game back from their COVID. So I think Ole Miss is about a game or two behind, which I think here kind of matters. Also, I will note the model's been underestimating Tennessee this season, overestimating Ole Miss. So as the model's kind of reacting to that, I'm not even sure it's caught up there. And maybe the spread should be even a little bit higher, in my opinion, because I think that Tennessee's been a little bit under-respected. Ole Miss a little over-respected by it. So the model likes Tennessee. I like Tennessee. What do you have to say?
I'm all over Tennessee on this one. This is probably one of my favorite plays of the day. Tennessee is a much better all-around team, and then a lot better defensively than this Ole Miss team. Like in the Alabama game, they played with one of the top offensive teams in the nation, and that was without their best player and arguably their most important player, with Kennedy Chandler and John Fulkerson out. So that was a really big, as a Tennessee fan, that was a great sign, because no, you don't like to lose, but it was on the road against a very tough team, and we got to figure out that we're deeper than what we thought we were, with Olivier Comwas playing big, Uros Plastic playing really well. So I really think Tennessee will just absolutely run away from Ole Miss in this, especially since Ole Miss is coming off his first game off COVID. They're going to be struggling to get through it.
Yep, I agree. So we both like Tennessee there, starting this off. And then another 6 p.m. game might be just as ugly, hopefully just as ugly here for me. Pittsburgh at Louisville. The model thinks Louisville should be a 14.5-point favorite. So it's a B pick for me on Louisville minus 12.5. Interesting note here, the model has only backed Louisville once this season. And so anytime I see something like that where the model just doesn't like a team, and then all of a sudden, hey, now we like them, I think that means something. I like Louisville here to hammer Pittsburgh. Jake, what's your take?
So Pittsburgh is bad. They don't shoot the ball well anywhere. ever. They average a whopping total of 61 points. So they're bad. And I believe Louisville may have turned the corner. Like Max got those guys playing very well. They've won back-to-back games against fairly decent opponents, with winning with Wake and then at Georgia Tech. And so I think that, along with Pittsburgh just being bad, will lead to Louisville, especially at the Yum Center. The Yum Center can get rocking at times, so it should be a fairly easy win for Louisville.
Yep. I agree with you on that one. Another game in a similar mold here, 7:30 p.m. Creighton at Villanova. This is an A pick for me. Villanova -11. The model thinks it should be Villanova -14. I hate making A picks laying double digits, right? Because we see these weird things happen when you get in those double digits. But I think Villanova is just in a different class than Creighton at home. If they show up and take care of business, they should be fine. Villanova will be without Caleb Daniels for their second straight game. It wasn't a big deal over the weekend. They still handled their business. So as long as everyone else is in the game, I think they should be able to handle Creighton. What's your take on this one, Jake?
Yeah, I think Villanova will be out for revenge. The last time these teams played in Nebraska, that Creighton beat them by 20, and Villanova had an uncharacteristically poor offensive night. They shot 17% from three when they normally shoot in the 30s, from like upper 30s from three. They didn't shoot well from the floor, and then Creighton played their normal game, and so everything remains the same. I think Villanova comes back and beats them pretty handily, because Creighton is a decent team, but they're a little sloppy. They're 14, 15-ish turnovers, and with a very guard-heavy team in Villanova, who likes to play up in your face defense like Jay Wright, that's only going to expand when they get going. So at home, sloppy team, and surely to goodness they'll shoot better than 17% from beyond the arc.
You would hope so. I find that the difference between the game is around what we think will happen or not. A lot of times when the games kind of play out like we think they will, a lot, closer to the spread, I feel like those are the types of games where both teams shoot 30% from three. And then you have these weird games, kind of like you mentioned that last time they played, where one team will shoot 40%, one team will shoot 15%, and it's 20 points off from the spread or something. And you look at it like, what are you going to do when one team just gets hot from three or just can't hit one? That's just going to completely change the course of the game, especially with only 40 minutes to play, right?
Yeah. And as thin as Villanova is this year, this is the rough part with taking Villanova, is they're very thin. So one or two guys is off, that means the team is off. But I don't think that's going to happen. It's like coming off the Seton Hall win and all that at home. Your lesser players play better at home because they're comfortable. They sleep in their own bed. So it should be very easy for Villanova to cover this and kind of exact some revenge on Creighton.
Yep. I like it. 8 p.m., one of the marquee games of the night here, Big 12 action. Texas Tech is at Iowa State. This is a B pick for me. Iowa State -2.5. The model thinks it should be Iowa State -4. I'm not sure Iowa State is getting the respect they deserve. They played really well against Baylor this last weekend, a Baylor team that's just handling everybody. And I just don't think the numbers caught up to Iowa State. The other key stat here for me, I usually do model stats. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to maybe steal from where you're heading here, Jake. I don't know exactly, but Tech turnover to assist ratio is about 1-to-1. And I think that matters on the road in an environment like what you have to play at in Ames. It's not a situation where, things can kind of go hunky-dory. If there's any pressure on them, any sort of, nerves, any sort of the crowds affecting you or whatever, they already turn the ball over a lot. And if they turn the ball over more, that's going to be a huge difference maker. So I like Iowa State here, given that we're laying such a short number.
Yeah, you kind of took my key to the game, but it's all right. I was going to say these teams are almost carbon copies, and so early on, Iowa State had some turnover issues. It's inflated their average a little bit, but they average around 14 turnovers, which is the same as what Texas Tech averages. But They both, which is it's just nuts as I was pouring through the stats. They
That's a large number.
yeah, and then they both shoot around 35% from three. They're both like 15 assists, and they both let up right around 58-ish a game. Like it was just almost exact looking at both teams all the way through. So I think they're both kind of key on defense, and Texas Tech's a very good team, has a very good defense, but it'll be too much at Ames to to overcome, especially when they're the only show in town, Iowa State. So that's what everybody's doing tonight. And I think the reason the numbers haven't caught up to Iowa State is that last year they were so bad.
Yeah, they were.
It was
really
like they won 2 games. So this amazing turnaround they have is incredible.
Yeah, last year was shocking how easy it was to go into Ames and win. That's never the case. Even a mediocre Iowa State team, they'll go on the road and get blown out, but at home they'll either win or it'll be a close game. And then last year was just the weirdest season that we've seen from them. And I think you're right. I think there's still just some hesitation given how bad they were. And I think the numbers catching up, but I just don't think it's there yet with just how solid this Iowa State team. Are they top 10? Maybe not quite top 10, but I mean, they're a very good top 20 team. In my opinion.
You don't want to run into them late in the year because they're only going to get better as everything gets in line for them.
Absolutely. All right, we've got what we're calling buzzer beaters here. A few games I'm just going to throw at you, Jake, that the model likes that are smaller games that may not be on your radar if you're listening to this. 4 games here. Robert Morris plus 3.5. That's an A grade pick for me versus Youngstown State. Milwaukee plus 2. That's an A grade pick at Green Bay. And North Carolina A&T minus 1.5. That's an A grade pick versus Presbyterian. Now, both of those teams are coming off a layoff, so a little bit of uncertainty there. I don't know if you have anything to say on those 3 games.
I mean, Robert, they're very similar. They're none of the games I would recommend watching. I don't think will be fun games to watch. I mean, North Carolina A&T, I really like that one. They added a freshman player who played last night game out and went 17-12. So if he can keep that up, even similar numbers, they should be a lot better than what the numbers are representing.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, some smaller games that may not be as interesting, but things where I'm going to trust the model here. Those are 3 A grade picks for me, and I've got a bonus B grade pick for you. On Monday's episode, we had a SWAC game. If you looked at all of the SWAC picks there, the model went 4-0 on the SWAC. So
we're officially SWAC.
Yep. Exactly. I've got a bonus SWAC pick for you tonight. We took Mississippi Valley State Monday. We're going to fade them today. I think they're going to have a weaker showing. So I'm laying the 7.5 with Alabama A&M as a B grade pick against Mississippi Valley State here as my bonus SWAC pick, since we're now unofficially a SWAC podcast apparently.
Yeah. Hey, well, you got to take it you got to stick to what you know. And Mississippi Valley State had the 1 game circled to win. They didn't. So I think the confidence is gone, and Alabama A&M is going to run with it.
And it's a good point here. We'll kind of close up with this just as a reminder. Remember, you're betting numbers, not teams. And we like Mississippi Valley State in that spot because it was 9.5. The model made it 8, and I think the game landed 9. And obviously, it's never going to be always that close. That's just a kind of a unique example. But here, I like Alabama A&M because I'm only laying 7.5. So that number matters. And that's not to say that Alabama A&M won't win by 6 or 7 or something like that, and we don't get to the window with it, but it kind of matters there. The difference between 7.5 and 9.5, that's 8 to 10% probability that it lands there. So if you're giving me Mississippi Valley State and 9.5, 10.5, it's a different story. But at that number of 7.5, I want to flip, and now we're going to take Alabama A&M tonight. So just something to keep in mind as you're looking at this. The number can matter when you're talking about a couple point difference there.
For sure. The numbers really matter. That's where bad beats come from, or really good ones.
Exactly. So that's all we've got for you today. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Picks with a Professor. Reminder to check out the Google Sheet for all picks on today's games. I have 9 more B picks out there. If you haven't done so yet, click that subscribe button for a new episode every weekday of the college basketball season. We will see you tomorrow. And until then, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.